Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Ray's Crafty Corner podcast. I am Rachel. I am dubious host. And yeah, I thought I would try my hand at podcasting, which is strange because this suddenly feels really slightly awkward, even though I already do a reasonable amount of videos on YouTube, so hi. It's now sort of strange to do in a format. I don't edit anyway, so it's just come what may. But yes, first off, I shall say that I am on Ravelry as Ray Louise May. That's R-A-Y, and then Louise May, M-A-Y. I'll put the links for whatever the stuff that I mentioned that happens to be internet-based will go in the doobly-doo below. Or, as some people call them, show notes. Because I have been watching a remarkable number of knitting podcasts over the last sort of few weeks. Because I'm still pretty new to this whole knitting community thing. So yeah, this is... Hi. Yeah, I'm generally, as sort of knitting and crochet goes, I am pretty raw beginner still. And I shall talk more about that in a little bit. But yes, this is my first podcast of an actual podcast, and this is going to be over on my Ray's Crafty Corner channel, which is going to be strange because it'll be the first thing I put up on there. Because I do have another channel which is called Ray Reads. I think it's just Ray Reads, and that has a lot of, as you might guess, bookish related videos, which was what I mostly do on YouTube anyway, in the kind of booktube area of YouTube. The knitting area, I hadn't even known there was how much of a knitting community there was on YouTube, and like all the knitting tutorials. It's kind of great, and I'm liking it. So yes, I do have another channel that has book videos, and more recently it has some videos related to knitting and crochet, which I will at some point carry over to here, but I shall put a link to that in case you fancy going to look at those ones. Some of the stuff on there you will see then kind of repeating here as I'm just talking about it, but it depends. It seems daft just kind of go, no, we're not talking about anything I've done before, since it's not very much I've done before this point, so I may as well actually re-show it here in this format. But yes, it's kind of strange that I started podcasting this early on in kind of my knitting career, as it were. But I kind of thought I like making videos and just talking at myself for like 20 minutes at a time. I'm quite good at it. A lot of my videos are this long, or I don't know how long this is going to be yet. It could be quite short comparatively, because it's not like I have a lot of works to show you, but so I kind of wanted to kind of share in the knitting podcasting community, because I've not watched loads and loads of different people, but I have sort of started watching. I've seen quite a few of the Dark Matter Knits podcast. I've seen a few of those. I've been watching some of Yarn Woman. I've been sort of going from the start of Yarn Woman. I'm slowly working my way through. I will have finished all of hers soon, which is quite good because I'm really liking hers, because the production value on her, the production quality on her videos is insane, and it's amazing. I really like her videos, and I've been watching some of Lolly's knitting podcast. Lauren, who's another UK person, which is great because there doesn't seem to be that many. Then I've seen a few of I've seen one of the Mustache Yarn podcasts, and I've also seen a couple of, I can't remember what the name of them, but it's two American ladies who are just hilarious and crazy, and and I just cackle watching their podcasts. So yeah, I like watching. It's kind of fun. I watch a ridiculous amount of YouTube videos anyway, but then sort of sitting and just watching knitting podcasts, I usually just sit there and watch, like listening to them and knitting myself, which is great because then it means I get stuff done. And I'm sort of sitting there. Hi, that the binging noise is my boyfriend talking on like chat thing to me because he's at work. I'm not. So it's like, yeah, podcasts. I've been watching quite a few of them. They're pretty good. And hopefully over time I shall discover more and stuff like that. I get really eloquent at some points, and at some points I don't. And if I accidentally swear at points, I apologise. I'm going to make a concerted effort not to swear too much, because thinking keeping it sort of like family friendly, and so I don't put off the people who are not quite so enamoured with my foul mouth. In some of my other ones on my other channel, there is a fair bit of swearing. I will warn you now. But yes, I'm trying to keep it PG here as best I can. But I kind of also, like a sort of another thought for behind doing podcasts online, then at least as I'm sort of trying new things and trying different projects, that if I kind of get stuck with some things, that there's a whole kind of online community that I can kind of come to going, what am I doing with this? Help. And from everything I've seen so far, everyone seems lovely and would be more than willing to help people out if you're sort of having difficulty with something. And the amount of tutorial videos that are for different problems, and if you're trying to do a certain kind of stitch pattern. I'm getting stabbed by my cable needle then. I've got a bit of my knitting just here, and the cable needle is jutting out. I keep digging my elbow into it. So it's like doing podcasts and then be able to show what I'm working on, and then if I'm having difficulty with stuff, then it's like somebody point me in the direction of where I can find out how to fix this, or if you know how to help me fix this, and that's great, because then I'm kind of learning, and also even just trying stuff to fix stuff myself, and then but then also other people helping, and that's great, and I really like that. But yes, I wanted to talk about a bit. I'm going to grab my tea here, because also it's going to warm my hands, because as you might have guessed by the fact that I'm wearing copious amounts of knitwear inside, none of which I have made, by the way. These are my sort of favourite kind of mitten-y things, fingerless mitten things, and they're awesome. And I'm now guessing that this is kind of like a sort of, I would imagine it's kind of like either Fair Isle or something like that. Colour work, I don't know, but it's cool. But it has like kind of fleece like sort of felty fleece inline, which is really cool. It means I don't get sort of lots of yarns to catch my fingers in. But yes, also Little Mermaid mug. I do like Little Mermaid. I'm a bit of a Disney nut, really. But yes, for reasons for kind of why I got into sort of knitting and crochet, I kind of currently have done more crochet stuff than I have knitting. Although my knitting projects are quite long ones, and as you might have guessed, scarves, because that's fairly easy for a kind of pretty raw beginner, because I did sort of learn how to kind of at least knit, and although I still could not do cast on, I would have to get somebody to cast on for me, because I couldn't get my head around casting on, because my mum used to knit, and doesn't anymore because she sort of has problems with her hands, and it's a bit painful for her. So my mum used to knit and would knit really fast and be able to just whip up all sorts. And so it's like, I knew that she could knit, and my great grandma Gertie also used to knit as well. So at my parents' house there is a massive bag of knitting needles that are sort of amalgamed from I think my mum's and Gertie's stuff, which I did raid. I can show you a bit later, but I raided that knitting needle supply but they're all straight needles, and there's a couple of circulars, but they're like fixed circulars, like from 20 something years ago probably. But I'm just looking out my window. I'm filming in front of my window, and the snow has just started to snow quite heavily. So I'm kind of like just watching. I've just seen a car go by on a. It's obviously been picked up from a breakdown. It's like, I feel bad for people. It's gonna be fun for people to get home later. But yeah, so my mum used to knit a lot, and my grandma Gertie, though I don't have a lot of memories about sort of my grandma Gertie. My most memories relate to my grandma Gertie involve Maltesers. So that's because I have terrible childhood memory. But yes, so like my mum used to knit, but I kind of never really did a bit of knitting when I was a bit younger, but it was just like literally just a block of garter stitch. I couldn't do anything else. And then I had a little bit of knitting stuff related for when I was at school. Ironically, I did a textiles GCSE. I had to make like 2 garments over, like 2 different things over 2 years. I'm not that good at sewing, but I have a textiles GCSE. Occasionally I'll get random urges I might try my hand again at sewing some things, because I know from watching a lot of podcast people, a lot of people have like sort of different project bags, which I didn't think of when I was like, I bought a knitting bag recently, but it's kind of like, it's going to just housing maybe one thing that I need to take to one place. But now I'm getting hankerings for actual project bags, so that's going to be a thing that I might have to do. But for kind of where this major sort of knitting crochet obsession sort of came in, was just at the end of last year. I mean, seriously, like two months ago, where I don't know what it was exactly, but around the end of November, like start of December, I just sort of got an urge to try knitting, and I had like a pair of needles in the house and a bit of yarn, and I was like looking online about how to cast on, because I could not remember how to cast on. I'm now pretty damn good with the long tail cast on method. I'm pretty good with that, but it's at this point when I wanted to knit, it's like I'm gonna have to sort of do some googling, and then sort of finding all these YouTube tutorials and things like that, and then that sort of led me on to sort of finding about crochet stuff, and I'm like, this looks interesting, because it's generally kind of using one thing, like one hook, so it sort of works out easier. That's nice and warm. So it's like then just starting into a bit of a spiral of finding things online and buying some yarn. I found that sort of my local Wilkinson sold yarn. It's only like sort of fairly cheap stuff. It's like I can get a ball, like 100-gram ball of a sort of acrylic colour yarn, like for about like $1.35, and that's like, to me that's quite. I was sort of, I'm still kind of in that cheap yarn phase, which I'll talk a bit more about I think later as well. But I kind of just bought this yarn and then sort of bought a crochet hook, and I was like knitting little swatches of stuff, and then I tried sort of looking at crochet things, and then it kind of turned into I'm gonna just try and crochet all the things to procrastinate some work. And it kind of became a bit of a way of me procrastinating. Words. This is the eloquence that I was talking about, where it just turns into a mess. But I'm doing open university, which means I'm studying at home and trying to teach myself, and it doesn't always go very well because I'm a terrible student. I didn't finish normal university because I'm terrible at sort of self-discipline and self-studying. So I'm doing open university, which is kind of like compounding the problem. So I turned to crochet and knitting to kind of, I need an excuse to do something else, and I'm doing something crafty, so let's do that instead. So it basically became procrastinating. That is what all the videos, that's what the sort of the playlist with all my other videos are on my Reread channel are under. They're under procrastinating. I thought I was being hilarious with that. I still think I am being hilarious with that, but that's for other people to decide. Some people quite like it. I'm sure some people are going, but yes, so that's kind of why I got really crazily into crochet and knitting, and I'm still in that kind of, I would like to try all the things. I mean, I've been sort of talking myself out of going out to Wilkinson's and buying they've got this kind of big 200-gram ball of like Aran tweed yarn, and I kind of want it because I kind of like to try and make a sweater with it or something, like a thick, chunky kind of sweater, and it's like just sort of talking myself off the ledge kind of thing of just sticking on some shoes and going out there in the snow, although it's kind of stopped snowing now, which is kind of good. I get occasional just single hiccups. Usually because I'm trying to talk and breathe and drink at the same time. So it doesn't really work and just turns into weird shrieks. So yeah, I'm still very much kind of in that sort of crazy hooked stage. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the next year goes in terms of my knitting, because and also for this crafty thing, I'm also trying to write and like trying to finish writing a book, which is, there's quite a few videos about that on my other channel as well. But this knitting then kind of means my hands are busy, so I can't type. So it's kind of not a thing I can do at the same time. So I don't know how it's going to go with trying to balance the two, as well as my studying, and also at some point probably getting a job again, because I was working up until Christmas and, at Waterstones, which was amazing. But now I'm not, and it's now like my funds to buy yarn and pay for more Open University modules is going to be slowly dwindling. So I need to be doing something about that at some point. And this is like 15 minutes long and you've not seen any bloody knitting, so I'm really sorry. But yes, I got into knitting and crochet mostly to procrastinate things I should be doing. But at some point maybe it'll be turning into something that I can actually do really well, and whether I can make something out of it, and to the point of like selling stuff on Etsy and things. So I'll be honest, I've not looked at anything knitting wise on Etsy, because I think it'll turn into a black hole of, oh my god, all of my money needs to go here, and then all my money's gone, and I don't know how that's going to work. But yes, I shall now briefly, because, alright, I'm going to try and balance this tea on my lap. This could go well. You could hear a shriek and a lot of swearing as I tip fairly hot tea all over my legs and groin. But yes, I have a few of my sort of the projects that I've done up to now. There's two that I don't have, but I have like got pictures on my project page on Ravelry of them, along with actual kind of something resembling a pattern. So like the first thing that I crocheted is this here hat. It's not the most attractive looking hat because of the shape, because I think instead of just cinching it down and I decided to do like sort of decrease rows of crochet, which was perhaps not the best idea for keeping it looking slouchy, because then it just all goes strangely fitted. And it's also quite big now, it got a bit stretched, because I didn't block it, because I still don't fully understand blocking as a concept and to what it's supposed to do. And for stuff like hats, I don't know. But this I did with all, for keeping things sane, I'll use US terminology for crochet because it confuses me. Front post double crochet, which I really, really like, is a technique that I really like. But this was a sort of I used a YouTube tutorial as a pattern for this by a channel called Simply Hooked Crochet, and she does, I don't know what the girl's name is who does it, but she's an American girl, and the videos are such good quality, and they're long, but they're really sort of clear as well and really lovely. But she hasn't done any videos in in quite a while, so it's like there's only quite about 10 or 12 that she's got up there. But yeah, this was this sort of like slouchy beanie hat one that I did. I'll put the link to the video in the thingy notes, but that is the hat I made. And these are a more recent one that I finished in the last week or so. These are some fingerless mitts, because as you can guess, I quite like sort of glove things, and I prefer fingerless gloves, so my hands don't freeze, although my fingers still end up cold because I'm a very, very nesh person and I'm always cold. But these are these kind of like cluster, I'll try and hold it a bit closer there, you can sort of see, these are made sort of like, it's from Happy Berry Crochet on YouTube, and I think they're also on Ravelry as well. Cluster fingerless mitts tutorial. So I kind of decided to make some of those with this self-striping yarn that I got from Wilkinson's as well. It's 75% acrylic and 25% wool, so it's not all terrible acrylic, and the colours are quite fun. Don't laugh too hard because that jolts the tea. So yeah, I made me those, and I think I could have done with making the cuff a bit longer so they sort of tuck down a bit, because they sort of start to bunch up on my hand a bit. But they are pretty cool, and when it's freezing cold and when I'm freezing cold, they're sort of good things to have around. And the other thing that I haven't worn so much yet, I don't know why, is my scarf that I made, which is a single rib 1x1 with knit stitches at the ends, and it's in another self-striping yarn. This is kind of a blue-green colour mix, the same kind of brand as the brand that I made that and that hat I made by a company called Yarn Fair, which I've seen is kind of what is in Wilko's, and I imagine they're not exactly a high quality brand, but it was cheap, and yeah, cheap. But this is a scarf I started knitting on Boxing Day last year, and I'm trying to very carefully, but it's about 170 centimetres long. So I basically got through 3 balls of yarn knitting this, and then I did some tassels at the end. And I'm really happy with this. The fact that it's not gone weird at any point. I've not lost stitches, and I've kind of managed to hide all of the ends of where I tied the balls on, because I've not got quite into that hang of doing this sort of changing over balls at the end of rows and stuff. I just sort of tied them together and carried on. So yes, this is my scarf, which I shall have to try wearing a bit more, because I have a lot of scarves. And as you see, this is a kind of more passionate one. I dug this out of a drawer because I haven't worn this in ages, because I tend to wear one scarf, which is my Ravenclaw scarf, because as you can sort of just see there, that is this is kind of like my the sort of our nerd shrine between me and my boyfriend, because that's one of my box sets of Harry Potter's, and just behind it is his like box set that's like kind of the adult covers. But yes, we have those. So they were like three of my sort of finished projects that I've done recently, and I have next to me here my current project, the only one that I've got actually on the needles, as it were, and it is another scarf. This time it's for my sister, because she requested like a really long scarf, and it's going to need blocking to hell because it's very narrow. It's only about, it's probably about 10 centimetres wide, but there's like about 43 stitches in it. But this is a 2x2 rib with a cable braid running up the middle, and I'm in love with the cable. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I kind of sort of saw the basic pattern for this on another YouTube video by RJ Knits. I don't know what his name is, but I know his channel is RJ Knits, and I'll put the link to the actual video. But his one, I think there wasn't a written pattern with it, so I kind of like jigged up my own, as you can sort of see there. That's the kind of the cable bit of it, and sort of how that repeats. So it's kind of an 8-row repeat. So my braid's a bit more spaced out than the one on his, and I added an extra sort of set of the rib on the other side because I'm using quite a thinner yarn than he is. But yeah, I've only just last night finished the first ball. I have 9 balls of this yarn, which is, admittedly, this is really super cheap. This is just sort of Hobbycraft's value crafts yarn. It's green double knitting yarn, 50-gram ball. So it's 100% acrylic, and it's but it can do up to about 40. It should be able to go in the washing machine, which is intriguing. But this is just like Hobbycraft own brand, and it was like £1 a ball. So I bought originally me and my sister bought like 6 balls, and then I bought 3 more, thinking I might need some more. But considering how I've got this length from just 1 ball, 9 balls will make it like Doctor Who Tom Baker scarf lengths. But I sort of I posted a picture of it on Instagram last night, and she said, just make me some mittens as well, and just make it super long. It's going to be like 2.5 meters. She's going to have to wrap it around her neck like 5 times. But I'm hoping when I've finished it, I can block it out and like sort of stretch out the ribs so the scarf itself is wider, because it's very narrow at the moment, and so making it a bit wider will be pretty good. So I currently have all of the balls of yarn for it is in this Waterstones bag, tote bag I have. I have quite a few tote bags. Maybe they'll just have to be my project bags, even though I can't zip them up. But there's like 8 more balls of yarn in there, so at some point I might be making her some kind of mittens. So I'll have to sort of see what kind of mitten pattern that I can find that I can A, do, and B, like on Ravelry. So yes, let's put this out of my reach so I don't like knock into it. I really should put the tea down, but that's kind of sensible. And as you may learn about me, I'm not always sensible. I occasionally do some very stupid things. Oh, nice warm. So yes, the other thing that I will at some point be starting soon, I'm going to put this down, just because, let's put it down. down here actually. Just don't knock it over now. Hold on, Rachel. The other thing that I have not started yet, but I need to start soon because otherwise I'm going to have my grandma after me, is a crochet project that my grandma has sort of asked me to do. She's not commissioned me because she's not paying me, although I have been reimbursed for the yarn. I'm sort of using this plastic bag thing that my boyfriend bought. My boyfriend bought a shirt recently, and it came in this, so I've kind of commandeered it for this purpose. But basically, I'm going to show you. I'll show you the pattern. My grandma wishes me to make her this tea cozy, and it is a cockerel. And there has been a whole slew of really inappropriate jokes between my sister and my boyfriend about this, and just about where that teapot spout is placed. I know, I've heard them all, and I'm just like, oh, please stop talking about it. But yes, so she wants me to crochet that tea cozy. She's given me the teapot that she wants it crocheted on. That teapot is not a sort of standard kind of round teapot. It's a kind of strange ovoid kind of thing, and I don't know how it's going to fit, and I don't know how to amend patterns well enough to be able to adjust it, so I'm going to be crocheting it flat and seeing how it fits, and then it's going to, at some point, Grandma, you're buying a new teapot, just so you know. But yes, so I have that, and the pattern's all like the inside of this. It's like from like sort of a women's weekly magazine, and it's just all of that, which is slightly scary because since most of the things I've done so far have been working from a video tutorial, so not actually reading patterns, so I'm hoping it shouldn't be too bad. Really hoping. But I have a lot of things, there's lots of little bits, like, because it's in two colours, so the body will be one colour and then all the little extra bits are going to be in a different colour, so I can hopefully make up those bits and then when I start doing them all together. But the yarn I'm using is DMC's Natura Just Cotton. It's 100% cotton, and it's in 50 gram ball, and this colour is colour N34, Bourgogne. So that's, yeah, Bourgogne is the colour for that one, which it's not the colour that's in the pattern. It's the same brand, but I couldn't get the actual specific colours. And then for the blue, it is Starlight N27, which is, and I like these colours, I think, better than the really bright blue that was in there. But so I have 2 balls of that and 1 of that, and at some point I shall have to get that on my hook. And I've sort of prepped thrown in my 3.5 hook in with that, so I can start that whenever we get to it. Yeah, I should start that soon. I might start doing some of the little bits, like, ooh, drop the bleeding hook. So I shall get started on that. Ooh, I nearly dropped that, and knowing my hook, that would have fell in my tea. And then I'd be really, really arsed off, because once you've soaked your yarn in tea, I don't know what that does to it. I imagine not good things. So yes, that's in that. So there, currently I don't exactly have many works in progress. I'm quite a slow knitter. My mother laughed at me when she saw me knitting the other weekend, because I was sitting there kind of sort of with like yarn wrapped around my finger, sort of doing this, and just like, what is so funny? What are you finding so funny about my knitting? It's so rude. But yes, so those are kind of my thingies. My whips or works in progress. I need to speed this up because otherwise it's going to be like 40 minutes long. It's going to be like the longest video I've ever done, and I've done some long videos. I'm going to show you a couple of acquisitions that I've made recently. I decided to go out into town the other day because I was like sat at home bored and very, very tired because I did a stupid thing and I only got like 5 hours sleep because I slept on the sofa. Don't ask. But I went into town and went and got some coffee from Costa, and then I kind of went into Arcs. There's a lot in our sort of where I live. It's kind of one of those towns where it's 3/4 charity shops and like 1/4 of actual chain stores, and the occasional odd non-chain, very occasional. But I went to the Oxfam shop that we had there, and I found in a box some yarn. This is, I don't, unfortunately they're both kind of mystery yarns, so I have no idea what kind of lengths they're gonna have and whatever, but this is kind of like a sort of blue thread, and I was trying to look at it, sort of trying to sort of like discover what kind of weight it is, but I think just how it's plied, I don't know whether it's I've heard of stuff called chain ply, so I don't know what that is, and whether that is what this is, because it's very strange how it's constructed, but it looks kind of like it's probably like equivalent to sort of 2-ply sort of weight, like pretty thin sort of stuff. So kind of for doing crochet of like sort of lacy type little designs, and there's a sort of bookmark that I made from a pattern in one of my books that I made for a friend's birthday, so I could make those kind of bookmarks out of that, and it would look really nice, I think. And 59p for that bit of a cone. It's like, yeah, heck yeah. And the other one, I've wrapped it into this this sort of gobstoppery ball thing. I've not figured out yet how to kind of hand wrap a ball of yarn so it's a centre pull. I don't know how to do that, so I kind of just wrap them into little gobstoppers, and I will have to deal with it rolling everywhere. I might have to like put it into a little bag and it can roll around itself and not roll away. But this is a kind of like, I don't know what weight it is, because I mean trying to see actual plies, because it does seem kind of like it's only kind of 2 plies wound together, but it's like kind of really cool blue and white, like summery kind of blue and white yarn, and it's decently soft. I mean, I don't know whether to like, I don't know, try and make whether to. It smells a little bit fusty. It didn't seem like there was anything growing in it, which was a good thing. But I really quite like it. I kind of want a hat out of it, I think. I kind of want a hat, because I don't know how much yardage it is. Judging by the size of the ball, and from what the other balls I've wound it, there could be about sort of 75 grams here, so it might be a decent-ish length of stuff, but I don't know whether it's DK or kind of like Aran weight compared to let's just pick, don't trash everything, compared to like, this is a DK yarn. Ooh. So comparing the two, they seem kind of similar sort of thicknesses. This is the ply, this is like, because of how the plies are in that, it's quite loose. So I think it's possibly similar kind of weight, maybe. I don't know, I could be talking absolute rubbish. But, I mean, for 59p, I am mystery yarn all the way. I'm down with that. So I was very happy with both of those, and hopefully at some point I shall find a pattern to make those with. Another thing that I bought, I'll show you real quick. For some reason, I went into Tesco with a friend, and I was just meandering about, and I saw a knitting magazine. I have another one upstairs that's like a knitting and crochet, but this knitting magazine had 10mm bamboo needles in there, and I thought, I want some. I can't be bothered to try and find some, so let's go for that. Although I don't know how well I bought another magazine recently that had like sort of some 4mm kind of bamboo like wooden needles in there, and some bits of yarn, and the yarn is atrocious. And the needles, for some reason, I just found I did not get on well with them, and these I probably won't very well either, because it just sort of, it's quite rough sort of here. Like, I feel like I need to get like a bit of sandpaper and like sand them back a bit, because trying to get yarn over that is going to catch more than going that way. But I got this, and I also have the magazine as well, which I've looked through, although for whether I'll do any patterns out there, I don't know, maybe at some point. But yeah, I kind of more got them for the 10mm needles, because then at some point if I can knit. No, I don't knit like that. I'm kind of more of a like that sort of thing. But yeah, I just kind of wanted the needles, so I bought the magazine. I'm an idiot like that, and that's probably how I end up with cheap stuff that's not really that good. But yes, those are some of the things. like basically I have also two books. These are kind of like my kind of gospel guides for my knitting and crochet, and I bought them from when I was working, and it's like these are kind of brilliant, and they have like patterns through, and then they have like sort of the different techniques and stuff about like tension. Tension is engage is going to just be so much confusing, but it has like sort of works through like the basic stuff and then some patterns that use that, and then sort of taking it further and introducing more complicated stuff. And it's in this and this is looks really quite great. It says about Fair Isle and Intarsia and all that lot, but there is in here that is the sort of jumper thing that I would like to try and knit, and I would like to try and knit with the Aran wool stuff that's in Wilco's, because it's like I want to try and knit something like that, and if it's a bit baggy and stuff, then that's all fine. I can deal with that. But yeah, so those are kind of some things I've acquired recently. You've seen the stuff I'm working on, but like I wanted to also say a bit like about what stuff I was sort of wanting to, like, hoping to do and achieve in 2015 with regards to sort of my knitting and crochet. Crochet is one of those things that I feel like I'm going to end up making more kind of hats and accessory things and like lacy little twiddly bits maybe. And if I fancied looking at like amigurumi, like the Japanese like making toys and stuff. Excuse me. Excuse you, sirens. Excuse you. Like on Maiden Road, and so we get fire engines going back and forth quite often. But yeah, so like crochet, I think it's not stuff that you can kind of make garments with necessarily. Although I have seen like crochet patterns for socks, but that just sort of seems like isn't that gonna be really sort of dense and warm and too much? I don't know. But so like kind of I feel like knitting is gonna be where I'll end up sort of developing actual garment kind of things from, and I kind of keep seeing people like sort of having about knitting shawls and knitting sweaters and things, and I'm like, I want to try that, and like I'm still struggling to get my head around the obsession that most people have with knitting socks. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be one of those things that if I get like a set of circular needles, which I keep eyeing up because I think I'm gonna need some, because I've got I have a whole set of straight needles and stuff, which I'm probably not gonna show in this video now because it's gonna be too long otherwise. But it's, and I also show them all in one of my other videos, so I'll put that video on here somewhere. So I kind of keep thinking I need to get some circular needles because I'd like to try doing a shawl or something. And like although lace looks like it's going to be a bit of a brain buster, and I'm gonna have to be sort of, I can't do my sort of thing where I kind of space out halfway through a stitch and I look down my needles through the loop and I'm like, what am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing. But I kind of really would like to try doing like shawls at least, because then it's not so much relying on fitting you, and then it's sort of stuff to like actual jumpers and cardigans and things like that, where then it does become really imperative that it fits you properly, and then I'm gonna have to figure out tension and engage and all that lot. At some point that'll make sense to me. I don't know when, but yeah, I kind of definitely would like to try more complicated things and get out of knitting just scarves, because I think I'll get bored very easily and sort of would end up drifting away from doing knitting if I just stayed on scarves. I think that's why I kind of need to get sort of looking into projects like that, and so I can keep developing. And I've been watching some lace tutorials recently, and it's like, okay, this kind of, I think I could get my head around this. We could do this. But then it's like also for that, it's then going to be getting into like the yarn that I need for those kind of things, so they're actually not like crappy quality. So then because I feel like Christmas this year is going to involve a lot of knitted goods for people, because if I kind of can get it to a point where I can make good looking stuff and they sort of feel nice and they're sized kind of correctly and they don't get all misshapen and stuff because I make them wrong, then that would be really great. But then I might need to then have actual decent quality yarn to make them out of, not just crappy acrylic stuff. My sister's not that fussed. She says she's not fussed, but I kind of feel like I should do better. So it's going to be looking at then what's decent quality stuff, and also for where I can get it, and for how much it's going to cost me, and do I have the money to do it? Because I bought like a whole set of like 25 balls of yarn, no, not 25, 15 balls of yarn off Wool Warehouse, that's related to a blogger called Attic24, and who does crochet, and like it's for like one of the ripple blankets that she does. So it's like you can get a colour set for enough to do all that. And I bought it more, in fact, so I can also get, because I was buying hooks and other bits and bobs. So I had yarn, and it's really lots of different nice colours, and I think it is might be all acrylic, but it sort of doesn't feel too scratchy and whatever. But so I've got quite a bit of yarn in the house, but it's all kind of what a lot of knitters and stuff now would be like, no, that's actually kind of like knitting for charity, crappy, give them as toy gifts kind of yarn, not actual serious knit stuff with kind of yarn. So it's, at some point I need to kind of make that kind of transition into actually buying quality yarns to make quality goods, and I'm not sure when that's going to happen for me. I think probably I should try and knit through a lot of the stuff I have, just so then my boyfriend isn't sort of glaring at me for hoarding yarn, because I have enough. I have a book problem, as evidenced by that case there, that cupboard is full, completely full of books, and there's more upstairs. So it's like trying to get into a habit of use everything I've got, and then buy stuff just for projects, rather than getting into a thing of buying pretty and then not knowing what I'm going to use it for. Because I do that with books. It's like, oh, pretty, I like the sound of this, and then I'll buy it, and then I won't read it for like 2 years. So at some point I need to get into kind of that. But yes, now this is getting quite long. This is going to be 45 minutes. This is strange. This is like the longest video I've ever done, and that's kind of mad. And it's going to be really weird, just the idea of putting it up there, and then people, because I did it's sort of one of the yarn haul videos, a haul of yarn. I'm so funny. Videos. It's like quite long, but it's one of the videos I think that has been the most like watched, the largest quantity of out of most of my videos, which is really strange. But yes, so I think I'll probably, depending on how this goes, probably kind of like fortnightly, because I don't knit very fast, obviously, and I don't think in a week I won't have much to show you. So it's like, and if I don't have anything bought, then it's going to be really boring for you, and that's kind of sad. I don't want to do that. And so yeah, I think with a fortnightly or 3 week, maybe, I don't know. But yes, this has been a podcast, and maybe it's been alright. I don't know. But yes, I don't see myself at some point being able to be sort of in a position to be like doing competition-y things, at least not for a while, because I don't know. But yes, this is where it's going to get really awkward, just all the sign-off and stuff. But yes, hopefully I shall see you again soon, and thank you for watching. If you've watched all of this, thank you, seriously. And if you've got any sort of feedback on on the video, on stuff that I've talked about, and stuff that I've shown, and if you've got any sort of tips for like things, maybe podcasters I should watch, things that I should be perhaps looking at on Ravelry for ideas of projects. If you've got sort of ideas for things that are kind of fairly easy but would look nice, that for me to kind of attempt at some point in the future, suggestions I suddenly just turn into Bruce Forsyth sometimes, and I can't talk. Suggestions for me to try, that'd be, and also for knowing where sort of what kind of brands of yarn are decent quality but not humongously expensive, that would be also great. But yes, also subscribe if you want to see another one. I'm not saying it's contingent on, if nobody subscribes, it's not mean I'm not going to do another one. I'm stupid and narcissistic like that sometimes. Considering how many videos I've got on my other channel, and the fact that I've only recently hit 250 subscribers, it's just, what are you gonna do? But yes, I shall see you again soon, hopefully, and thank you for sticking with me. Else, happy crafting as it is, or I have no idea what kind of slogan-y catchphrase things. I don't want to steal anyone else's. Toodles, I shall say for now. Toodles.